All right, so um, a quick story here about something that happened at work. So, where I work, there is a diversity, equity, inclusion director. Still not sure why we need such a thing. Um, I've seen these go very poorly. But I suppose they could be done well. But still. So I had sent a message to HR simply asking about what races the company sponsors throughout the year. And this individual used to work directly in HR, so he still gets the emails. He responded, and I noticed that in the signature line of his email, which is the first time I'm seeing it, so it was added recently, or at least since the last time he sent out an email to me or others. He added his pronouns, which seemed kind of strange to me because he's straight up dude, and I'm thinking maybe it's just for show, or maybe he wants to encourage other people to use pronouns. I don't know. I'm all for diversity in the workplace in terms of that we come to work, we do the work, and we just happen to come from different backgrounds, think different things, and stuff like that. I get that because let's say, for instance, you were the only leftist and everybody was hardcore right or something, that could be an unhappy experience. Likewise, you could be the only conservative among a lot of being surrounded by a lot of progressives, and once again, it could make for a very unpleasant work environment, depending on how you end up being treated. People have a track record of treating other people poorly. So I get that. So yeah, in recognition of this, I don't think that. Here's the thing, though, and this is when it comes to that I'm a Catholic. There's things that could be overt. I could say God bless to every customer that comes in. Okay, I could have my crucifix on the outside instead of the inside of my shirt. Every time that I have a snack, even in front of people, I'm doing the sign of the cross. I could be really overt. Okay, I could be really overt. I could be in the break room doing the rosary out loud. I mean, it could be even obnoxiously in your face. Just Catholic all the time. Does everything have to be Catholic all the time, Mr. Chambers? On the other hand, why does everything have to be gay? I mean, when it comes to the workplace, I try to be quite reserved because I know I'm working with other people. And we really need to focus on the work. We can't be overly expressive of ourselves. That can cause conflict, and it does. So, I guess in a way, I'm willing to be courteous enough to not overtly do anything that draws unnecessary attention to myself, my personal life, to my thoughts and everything else. But here's a clear case where It is overt. This is a company email. Okay. Yeah, I've received an email of a woman wanting to sell Girl Scout cookies to everybody in the company via work email. I responded and said, I like to keep my email strictly for work purposes. Please remove me from your email list. In my mind, it seems common sense that you're not going to do that because there could be other women selling Girl Scout cookies. And why should this person have a market, like a corner of the market for this company? First come, first serve. Like, they got the email out. In my opinion, they probably shouldn't be doing that. Not all company wide. If you're the only mom with a Girl Scout in your department, that makes sense. But a company wide email, come on. My point is why should there be something overt like the usage of pronouns? And so I wrote an email, which I will read here in full. I wrote an email talking about my experience a little bit with tags and identifiers and stuff like that, particularly as it related to my experience on Twitch. So I'll be reading that here. I just wanted to give a little background. I am very much work related only at work. I do a fair good job to compartmentalize my life, and I try to I'll use this channel all day long to talk about whatever I want, but when I'm at work, I'm doing transactions, I'm taking care of members. So with that said, I notice other people don't tend to do that. It seems to be more common for people not to be compartmentalized. They talk about all kinds of different things and they fight and so sometimes the company engages in fundraisers. And the last fundraiser we had was for breast cancer. I opted not to participate, not because I have something against breasts. But I raised the question, okay, today it's breast cancer. What if it's a cause that I can't get on board with? Now I have to deal with people wondering why I'm picking and choosing exactly what I'm doing, and now that's an issue. So I just said it's not related to work. If I want to give to a charity, I will do personally. I'm not going to actively engage in any fundraisers, charities, or anything within the context of work. I'm just not going to do it. So I opted to take a hard line on that. That way I don't have to play the game, well, why am I supporting this and not supporting that? So I decided that I just wasn't going to do any supporting of anything within the context of work. People don't like it, too bad. I have a history of seeing what happens when people mingle things and demand and push, and no, thank you. All right, so I wrote, in the spirit of diversity of thought, this expression diversity of thought was on the company website, on the intranet. So it's something that only we can see as employees of the company. And upon reflection of the usage of identifiers in company emails, I share the following. And so I share my background a little bit. A few years ago, the Twitch platform initiated a tagging process for video content. Originally, the tags were to be objective concerning the activity that is being performed in the video. In other words, you couldn't put a funny tag up. You could use the comedy tag, that's the activity that you're attempting to perform. But you couldn't have a tag that's subjective in any sense of the word, like funny. Right? And it always had to do with the activity that is being done, such as drawing, singing, writing. I mean, heck, before all of that, Twitch was simply gaming only. So there's been like a progression in general on this. But one day they added the LGBTQIA plus tag. I wrote Twitch. I pointed out to them that according to their non-discrimination policy, one could not be discriminated on the basis of age, sex, natural origin, etc., etc. And usually, and it is in the contracts and community guidelines, speaking of gender identity and sexual orientation, among many other things. I pointed out that the new tag was not consistent with their previous tag policy. And not only that, it singled out one particular identifier listed on the non-discrimination list to the exclusion of all the others, meaning that if you wanted to identify as, and by identify I mean simply express, hey, welcome on in. Whoa, okay, I gotta stop your sayings. F Symbols was my very first subscriber. 65 months ago, I became an affiliate, and I was sitting there playing, what was it, Little Samson, or I was playing some NES game like Mega Man 3 or something, and F Symbols stops in and subscribes to my channel, and I get a notification saying that F Symbols has subscribed, and I didn't even know that I was approved to be an affiliate. So I didn't even know I could get subscribers. So, you know, that's why he's got the first tag there as a founder, the founding tag, and the VIP tag, because F Symbols will be a lifelong friend for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for the 65 months. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome in this evening. No games this evening, but I'm just sharing a little bit about what happened at work, and then be doing my prayers and going over some theology tonight. Oh, no. Please, by all means, interrupt. And so what I had expressed is, so Twitch went from gaming only, and F Symbols is the only person that I know personally who was banned or suspended on Twitch. What was it, 2 or 3 days, because you video recorded yourself, you live streamed yourself shoveling snow, which I still think is funny. I think that's absolutely hilarious, but it just goes to show that Twitch was a gaming content only, and they were very strict about that. So when they created the tags, they had very specific language in describing what could and what could not be a tag. There was a blizzard, you had to appeal account. Well, I'm glad you still have your account. It's an awesome story. I share that story a lot. Anytime I mention the Twitch used to be a completely gaming only platform, you know, I always share that story because it's just it proves the point. So Twitch decided to use tags, which makes sense. You can tag your content. People then can search types of content that they want to see, fine. I guess it kind of makes sense. Before, you could track that by looking at what the category was you're streaming under, such as like what game you were playing. I suppose people are using Twitch for such a broad amount of reasons that it makes sense for them to have more variety of tags. Fine. Okay, whatever. Use them, don't use them, they're there. But when they introduced this one particular tag, it went against their previous policy on the objectivity of the activity of the streamer. It had to be objective and it had to be the activity. It was very specific on exactly what it was. And I also had pointed out in an email to Twitch that you have given some people the ability to describe themselves to the exclusion of everybody else on the non-discrimination list. Nobody else on the non-discrimination list had the opportunity, the same opportunity to express something about themselves. And I said, well, this is by definition what it means to discriminate, is that these people can do this and these people can't do that. And so I expressed this. Now, it was only a couple of years later that they changed this, which I'll get to, but I'll continue with the email that I wrote. Not the email about the changing the tags, but the email that I wrote to the director of diversity, equity, inclusion at my work. And I'm responding to the fact that I saw that he had put pronouns in his work email. Okay, so we're dealing with a work-related platform within the company. I proposed that it was discriminatory for them to create one identifier tag, allowing some on this list to express something they think about themselves, while others do not have the same means of doing the same. As a Twitch partner, we are usually heard above others on the platform, and it was within a year or two that Twitch eventually created tags for all the people who are described by the items on the non-discrimination list, so that they too could identify something about themselves, such as what nation you live at, what language you speak, stuff like that. Originally, they attempted to control exactly what tags could be approved and used, but again, they ran into the exact same problems, such that they would approve the usage of racial tags, but to the exclusion of white and Caucasian and stuff like that. So in all of these instances, there was a very clear bias or agenda as to what it is that they wanted to accomplish. And in each case, in their attempt, and people use the term inclusion a lot, in the attempt to try to make one particular group or identity or something to feel like they are welcomed on the platform, it's always done in such a way that that gets highlighted to the exclusion of everything else. And this creates a disparity between the two. And that was another argument that I put forth, is that if we have a tag that highlights something on the non-discrimination list, and you're not offering the same opportunity to highlight something else on that list, how then is that list, how is it that those people are not being discriminated against because they're not given the same opportunity simply because they are underneath another category within that list? Why would people of a certain category of that list, so-called and self-identify, be given unequal treatment? Right? So in each of these cases, we clearly see that there was a disparity. All right. So eventually, instead of scrapping the idea of tags, which Twitch didn't, or reverting to the objective standard, the position which I originally advocated for, they made it so that people could manually create whatever tags they want for each individual stream. While I prefer tags to reflect the activity of the stream, such as art, music, retro gaming, I have actually personally benefited from this most recent version of tags because it allowed me to customize my tags in a way that was not allowed under the previous system, needing pre-approval from the Twitch platform. So now if I'm reading theology, I can simply use the theology tag or the prayer tag, or the conservative tag or the Catholic tag. These didn't exist like months ago. Originally, you would have to get enough people to upvote certain ideas on the platform. So when they open it up, now I can have whatever tags I want. And that's fine because I'm describing my content. All right, you come in here, you need to know I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, all right, I'm traditional, hold the traditional family, traditional marriage, traditional values. I talk about theology, scripture, I read, I pray, I educate. And if I'm playing a game, I can use gaming tags too. I can be very specific about what I'm doing. Because they removed if you remember, they removed the blind playthrough. Somebody must have complained at some point that we shouldn't use the expression blind playthrough because it could be offensive to blind people. People make up reasons to be offended. It's like they want to remain in a perpetual state of offense. So then they can justify directing ill will towards other people. Okay, it's like a psychological problem. Anyways, back to my letter. I shared this story because in their attempt to let some people have their own personal tags, it created a discriminatory system where other people were not able to have the same means of expression. While I do not think that tags should be used in this way, which used to be Twitch's policy, it created a problem where there was not equal opportunity for people to express other aspects of themselves. The agenda was very exclusionary and only benefited very specific groups of people and certain ideological commitments. Another way of looking at this is what I called the difference between being a safe. I'm using this language, okay, but hear me out. A safe place. They want to have a safe place for some. Basically, that's the idea. They want to mold and shape and manipulate the culture so that certain people aren't just welcomed but celebrated. And if you don't want to do that, then you're just a bigot and you're ostracized. That's not my understanding of inclusivity. My understanding of inclusivity would be streaming to the broadest audience possible. So I keep it gaming when I'm gaming or something like that, right? I'm not going to be too overt about my own personal thoughts on politics, culture, philosophy, and stuff like that. I'm going to do gaming commentary. I'm going to talk about a new trick I discovered or Death Warp or something in a game. It's going to be about the game. And that in of itself, that shared hobby, is a safe place for all. Why? Because anybody could come into my stream. I had no idea what their political background was. I had no idea what their philosophical thoughts were. I have no idea what their ideas are on cultural movements. No clue. But we enjoyed a video game together, right? And as soon as they find out that I'm a Catholic and I absolutely cannot support them the way that they want to be supported, they don't want to be my friend anymore. So there's two ways of dealing with that. One, never have said anything, just let people walk all over me, which no, I can't do that. Or the heck with them. I'm just going to be myself. I mean, that's what they want for themselves, right? That's what they want for themselves. They just want to be themselves. They just want to do what they do. They just want to think what they think, feel what they feel, and not feel like they have to defend that all the time, right? To not feel like they're constantly in a hostile environment. And I get that. I think that's fair. Right? Even if I disagree with their life and their morals and everything else, I don't think that they should be like perpetually harassed and things like that. I mean, there's a time and place. You become friends. You're in the right to speak. People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. You make a connection. And you can share some things and you can't share others. We have friends for different reasons, and sometimes friends for certain seasons. But I think overall, I think, I think I missed my point. But anyways, I think it was a good idea for us to be respectful of gaming, enough that we weren't going to drag ideological warfare into that milieu. Okay, that we were going to respect gaming for gaming. We were going to respect it for what it was. And we weren't going to taint it. We weren't going to poison the well. We weren't going to try to draw all of our conflicts about everything else into that space. All right? It was supposed to be a gaming zone. When we're here, we're gaming. If you want to argue about something, you argue about the game. Okay? If two people like chess, they can argue about what the best opening is and why, right? The Caro-Kann is superior to the French defense because you can get your bishop out and it's not locked in. Have that debate. I don't care. That's fine. But when the chess space then becomes filled with all kinds of non-chess stuff, it really muddies the water. It's really disrespectful to the gaming environment to force that, to force that. So when I draw a line, I say no, and you watch people just completely flip out. They cannot handle themselves appropriately. They can't take no appropriately. That's a problem when people can't do that. Anyways, my original proposal to Twitch was to keep the whole system focused on the activity performed, such as drawing. Years ago, Twitch used to be a gaming platform only, to the exclusion of any other type of content. I preferred this as well, and this gaming-only mentality stuck with me over the years because I reasoned that if I were to stick to the games and avoid philosophy, politics, and culture, I could stream to the broadest audience possible and create an environment which was welcoming to anyone who likes video games. See, that's the point. Gaming was already all-inclusive because anybody could do it. It already was that, but that wasn't their point. All right? That wasn't their point. But over time, people began to attack me personally because I was not using Twitch for any other purpose other than gaming. And when I refused to allow my gaming to be associated with non-gaming matters, I was severely ostracized by the retro speedrunning community. What I learned from this very unpleasant experience is that ideological warfare is alive and well in places which should be more neutral. I take this exact approach at work. So I generally avoid all philosophy, politics, and cultural conflicts and try to keep work-related only. As a result, I do not participate in charities or other non-work-related activities. With that said, if I do see cultural elements or expressions of a socio-philosophical sort, I often avail myself to share my personal reflection, particularly if I'm exposed to it during the course of my normal work day. Generally, if I am exposed to non work related things at work, I will mention it. Otherwise, I keep it to myself. I said all this to say this. The use of pronouns in your work email is what prompted this reflection. There are very specific ideas that underlie the use of pronouns, often reflecting very specific philosophical assumptions concerning the question of inherent meaning, presupposing a theistic or non-theistic philosophical framework, and the nature of the human person. It is deeply rooted in the existentialist thesis that existence precedes essence. The problem is that people's ideas about these topics are not uniform, particularly when it comes to our anthropology. There is diversity of thought within our immediate culture concerning the meaning of gender and its relation to biological reality. Not everybody is influenced by recent cultural movements or modern philosophical ideas, and often these ideas are diametrically opposed and can easily lead to personal conflict. If by the use of pronouns you simply intend to express that you follow one set of presuppositions, that you maintain specific intellectual commitments, then I would ask, in what way may others of opposing philosophical persuasions may express themselves in their signature line? I would propose that no employee use their work email to identify or express aspects of their own personal worldview, especially ones that are so hotly debated within our immediate culture. And I would propose that if the use of these identifiers are retained, will other identifiers be permitted, giving equal opportunity to others to similarly express something they think concerning themselves? And if we allow one means or one type of expression, how do we avoid the same exclusionary and discriminatory result that plagued Twitch's tag policies? Once again, in the spirit of diversity of thought, I wanted to share my experiences with you and offer my ideas for your consideration. End of email. The response that I got was an invitation to a 15-minute Zoom call so that he could explain to me the reasoning for allowing the pronouns in the line and to talk to me about the culture of the company. I felt that I had made myself quite clear, not only in expressing my concern that the use of pronouns demonstrates the underlying philosophical assumptions, right? I mean, like, for example, you're not going to find a conservative using their pronouns. That's generally not the case. Okay, so with that said, I laid out those questions and I took the time to explain, okay, so you're allowing that, what else are we going to allow? And if we don't, why? How is that equal treatment? How is that diversity of thought? How is that everything that they claim that diversity, equity, and inclusion encompasses? Right. So if the company recognizes that it has a broad range of people from all kinds of different backgrounds in the company, and they want everybody to feel welcome, I get that. That's great. But the company is already welcoming. It's a job. We all go and we do a common job. We're working with members who we're dealing with the same sorts of things. It is in of itself just like the gaming environment. It's already inclusive, right? I mean, HR already has a non-discrimination clause in their hiring practices, as well as the treatment of employees within the company. Those things already exist. The only thing that they're doing differently is let's highlight See, what ends up happening is that they'll take what they think is the most oppressed group and they'll highlight it, but then end up demonizing, because if there's an oppressed, then there's an oppressor. So where's the oppressor? Hey, we got some oppressors right here. You know, these people with white skin over here. You know, we're gonna have a special training just for these white people over here. You know, um, that's no longer what they say that they're going to do. And I'm not saying the company I work for has done that. What was that, Coke or Pepsi or something? They were doing stuff like that. Yeah. I did that whole video on the Salvation Army, on some of the training material, study material that they had released, that people got a hold of. I'm all about learning about people's histories and treatment and stuff like that. I mean, our country has a history of that kind of stuff, you know. And some people genuinely have experienced bad things because of people doing bad things, and that's sin, and that's unfortunate. Um, but those things are there because of sin, because of you know, it's not specific to anybody could sin any particular sin. Different cultures might be prone to some sins as opposed to others. But anyways, so I got down with this, and he had proposed. He actually just sent me an invite. He didn't ask me if I wanted to discuss it. I simply just wanted to share, and that was the language I used. You know, here are my reflections. I wanted to share the following. Just wanted to share my experiences. I just wanted to offer my ideas for consideration. I never once opened up for dialogue. Well, and that wasn't my. I honestly didn't think I was going to get a response. And so I basically said, there isn't anything more that I have to say. I think I already have an idea of what the company, generally thinks. And I think all I would be doing is, this is always a strange thing. I would basically be reading to you what I already wrote and actually try to get a verbal response to it. I don't have time for that. I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to read it. It kind of reminds me of when I wrote against a New Age teacher that was infiltrating the Diocese of Colorado Springs with the help of the Bishop Emeritus, who co-founded an organization. Horrible situation, but I got the bishop at the very least to make me the offer to come and talk with them about the subject. And my argument was simply this: what would I do other than read to you what I've already written? I said, I've already written what I wrote. You have plenty time to think about how you want to respond to it. All right, you can put content together. You can, make it well done, which would be much more fruitful than me simply flying out to Colorado Springs and reading to you that which I had already written on the subject, which had gone completely unanswered. And why am I paying for a plane ticket all the way out there just to do that for you? It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand. All right. They originally made, and they wanted me to agree to no longer speak against the group. The bishop asked me directly to no longer write against the group. And I said, nope, I'll continue to write against the group. I guess I don't. I guess I don't need a response to it. It was a whole political thing, but my point of what I'm saying is I didn't see that there was going to be any benefit to it. And if anything, I would hear him say something I would want to critique. And if I were to verbally critique it, I would be worse off. So I declined and I said, what I've written is what I've written. It's like I said, I was just sharing. It's for your consideration. Do with it what you want. I don't have anything more to say. Yeah. And that's probably the best thing I could actually do. Yeah. So he didn't push the matter. He said he would respect that, and that's fine. But I'm going to guess that there's a lot of subtleties. There's a lot of distinctions and things that I express in this email that I guess aren't going to be understood. And therefore it's not going to be engaged in any significant way. It will have zero impact. Most things that I attempt, don't ask me why. Most things that I write or attempt to communicate don't seem to have the kind of effect I would like for it to have. But that's just life, I guess.